Hello everyone, welcome. This is SharePoint Power Hour, and this is our weekly YouTube streaming show that we do every Wednesday at 11 Central. I am Laura Rogers, and we are all with Rackspace Hosting, sponsored by Rackspace Hosting. And basically SharePoint Power Hour is an hour of us demoing something in SharePoint or discussing something in SharePoint. So we don't usually get into, it's mostly just business solutions, so we don't get into things that involve programming or things that involve server administration. It's mostly just all the other stuff that you can do in SharePoint, out-of-the-box stuff, web parts, apps, permissions, search, navigation, all those other kind of concepts. So this is the 70th episode, and they're all right there on our YouTube channel, SharePoint RAX, and they're all just in there for you to watch and peruse. The way it works is we use a Google Hangout to do this, and it streams live also to YouTube at the same time. If you're watching on YouTube, you will have a little yellow link on the YouTube video that can take you over to the Google Hangout little page. And the cool thing about the Google Hangout is it has a little Q&A app so that you can ask questions. That's kind of the whole point of doing this live, so that you can ask questions as we go and give us feedback. So we have it's a little weird, when you first go to that page, because it's not really obvious where it is. There's some squares at the top right of the video, and that's the way that you switch between apps. So I think it defaults to this one called Showcase that shows some links that we're sharing, but you can flip it over to the Q&A app, and that's where you can ask us questions. So feel free to shout out in there and say hello and show that you've found the Q&A app. And we love getting your feedback as we go. So again, I'm Laura Rogers. We'll go ahead and get the team to introduce themselves, and then I'll be the one doing the demo today, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's see, we'll go, the order that you guys are on my screen on the bottom is Kevin, then Ryan, then Joelle, then Stephen, then Tonya. So we'll go first to you, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Hughes, SharePoint architect here at Rackspace. I'm based out of Kansas City, and my role on the team is to work with our clients in initial phases and throughout the entire projects to figure out what they need, and if we can be of help, figure out the solution to fix all their ills. So that's me.
All right, Ryan.
Hi everybody, I'm Ryan Keller, coming to you from snowy northern Colorado. So I'll be shoveling my driveway later today. Yeah. I am the branding guy on the SharePoint team here, so I make SharePoint look a little less like out-of-the-box SharePoint. Work with clients from kind of the initial planning stages of their design. Sometimes we do creative work. Do a little bit of everything in the branding world, just to make SharePoint not look like SharePoint.
All right, awesome. Joelle.
Hey guys, I'm Joelle Farley, based out of the Atlanta, Georgia area. I am on the business solutions team as well, and I often work a lot with out-of-the-box features and some planning and design type stuff for SharePoint as well.
All right, Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen Wilson. I am on the business solution team coming from the Cincinnati office. We are all over the place now that I think about it. I do a lot of our data migrations and installations for customers, get them up and running in SharePoint, help them with the initial layout of their sites, and some of the initial questions about, how to use SharePoint, what's a list, what's a library, that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Tonya. I'm one of the new members of Laura's team, and I'm actually based in San Antonio, Texas at Rackspace HQ, or the Castle as we know it. I admin our internal SharePoint farm here at Rackspace, so my customers are other Rackers, but it's a lot of the same stuff that everybody else deals with, advising Rackers on what is, the best out-of-the-box component to use, basic site architecture, and those sorts of things.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so I'm Laura Rogers. I'm a SharePoint MVP. I've got about 10 years of experience with SharePoint, and I started off as a server admin and kind of moved my way to loving working with people with their sites and building out-of-the-box solutions. So That's mostly what I do, and I teach a SharePoint training class as well, online training class. So one of the demo today is one of the questions that people ask all the time, and I just wrote a blog post about this on wonderlara.com. People ask all the time is, how can I have some kind of security on certain columns or certain views in my SharePoint list or library? And it is a very common question. It is not something that's just sort of a click of the button out of the box. It's something that there are a lot of different ways to do it, to sort of get that effect, and there are a lot of different levels of complexity with the ways that you can do it. But just keep in mind with the stuff I'm going to demo today that there is no actual security on a specific column or a view in SharePoint. Okay, there's not actual security on a column. So technically when I say that people could somehow get to that field and change a value to it in some way. So there's security that exists, at the site, at the library level, at the folder level, and at the item level. But that's the whole row, that's the whole item in SharePoint list or library. So what we're going to do today, it's just ways to mimic security on a column or view. So I don't have slides or anything as usual, but I did just write a blog post that steps you through this really simple concept. But what I did was, what I want to show you is, I'm going to start out going over a fairly simple concept, the one I mentioned in my step-by-step in my blog post, but then I'm going to go a little bit more advanced, and I'd love for you guys to ask questions as I go, because again, lots of ways to slice and dice this particular thing that we're doing. So this isn't the one set way to do it. It's just, I want fairly new users and fairly experienced users to be able to know that there are ways. Okay, so what I did in my example is I have this is a very common thing, an IT help desk request sort of concept, where you have people submitting tickets, and then IT people, or maybe the ones looking at the tickets, the ones doing something with whatever those issues are. So there is an out-of-the-box list template. When I choose Add an App in SharePoint, it's called Issue. It's an issue tracking list. Just type issue and I can find it. And that's an out-of-the-box, quote, app or list template in SharePoint. So I use that to create just a basic list called Issues on my site. So this is my IT site, and I just created one called Issues. I created a few different ones here as I was just kind of going through doing screenshots and stuff for the blog post that I just wrote. But just bare bones out of the box, this is what an issues list looks like. So I'm going to go fairly quickly through the things that I wrote on the blog, and then I'm going to go sort of on further to some more advanced things. So if I want to have, again, a pretty simple way of just hiding some columns when someone's first filling out a form, like when an end user wants to fill out a new issue on the help desk request site, we don't want them to be able to fill out who it's assigned to. We don't want them to be able to fill out maybe related issues, due date. We might not even want them to be able to fill out the priority. So I'm going to show you a quick way that we can hide those things from the form that people are filling in that list. So we can go to List Settings and Advanced Settings and choose Allow Management of Content Types and click OK. And then once we do that, we have this Content Types area here. So once you do that, then depending on what type of list or library you have, you'll see a different word here for whatever that default content type is. Like if it's a custom list, it'll say item here. If it's a task list, it'll say task. Contact list will say contact. A document library will say document. So it's going to be a different one for each of those types, but whatever that content type is. Oh, you don't see my screen? Y'all should have told me. You don't see my screen? Okay, hold on. Let me share my screen. Let me go back. Thanks. I'm halfway through the demo and no one knew that I was actually showing my screen. Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate that. Okay. So again, this is just an out-of-the-box issues list. Thank you. I think there's a little bit of a delay too as to what I'm saying and like when people actually see it when they're watching the video. So that's probably why we had a little delay. Okay. So here's my issues list, and all I did was go into the list settings. This is all you missed. and go to Advanced Settings and say Allow Management of Content Types. Okay? So on the settings page, this is the content type thing that I was just talking about and going over. So my content type that happens to be in this list is called issue. Okay? So I'm going to, whatever that content type is, I'm going to click on that. And then here is another list of all the same columns that exist in that list or library. Okay, so assign to. I don't want people to be able to fill that in when they are filling out a new form. So I just change it to hidden. Okay? And see, now I can see that it's hidden over here. So then maybe due date. I don't want them to be able to do that, so change it to hidden. And then related issues, they don't know what that means when they're filling that out. That'll be too confusing. So I've got assigned to is hidden. Status, I don't want them to be able to change the status. That's for the IT people to determine. So the status is just going to default to some, like active, just like a new issue, and then people will not necessarily be able to fill that out or change it. We don't want the end users changing it. So once I've done this, now that you can see inside of my content type, I can see which ones are going to be required, hidden, or optional. When I'm on my regular list settings and I'm looking at the columns, see, I don't see those options here. You have to go into the content type to be able to see the required, hidden, or optional. So that's how you get to that. So I'm going to go in here just real quick and change my category for these help desk tickets to hardware, software. I'm just going to put some basic stuff in here, SharePoint, and put some basic things in there. And so now, instead of getting just basically every single thing to fill out when someone fills out a new item, they get this. So it looks like I forgot one because I want to use this comments box for the IT people to make comments as they're working on the ticket as opposed to end users filling in the comments. So I'll do one more. So here's how I got to it. List settings, and then issue, and go to comments, and hidden. All right. Okay, so now let's try it again, new item. Okay, so now an end user can say like, stuff is broke. You get tickets like that too, right? We might not want them to put that as high priority too, so that could be something we want to hide. It's up to you in that situation though, okay? Come fix my computer. All right, and then that's hardware, save. All right, so then this goes into a SharePoint list, and you still have all these columns like issue status. You notice that that was not something that was something they were filling out, but it still, had a default value, and it still has a value in there. But we want people in the IT department to be able to not only see all of the issues in the list, but be able to go edit some of these other fields. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this whole concept of a security on a view. So here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to create this, I'm going to have this My Issues view on this list be the only view that anyone can even get to. So make this the default view. And I'm going to say, let's see, so I just want people to be able to see the stuff they put in here. So the main thing I'm going to do is assigned to is equal to me or created by is equal to me. So that way people can just see stuff that's pertinent to them, and again, check the box to make it the default. All right, so now I'm going to go delete all these other views. So I go to active issues, delete it, and all issues, and delete it. So now the only view that exists in there is this one. The next trick in here is to create a custom permission level so that people cannot go in here and create more views. So that's another, and I'll do the permission stuff in a minute, but just, I went ahead and just made this so it only has one view. By default, people can only see their stuff. Okay, so quick side note is that an issues list and libraries don't have it, but in the advanced settings of some lists, see this one doesn't have it, in the advanced settings of some lists, you have, I'm going to go to a custom list in here, in advanced settings, this item level permissions thing. So you can just set a setting that makes it automatically so they can only see their own stuff and or maybe see everything else but only edit their own stuff. So that's just a real good out-of-the-box functionality that's been around since like 2007 at least. that you can do on a lot of different list templates. But a lot of the stuff I'm showing is going to be, whether or not you have this setting, other ways to do sort of view security. So back to my issues list. So now I only have one view, and I want to have a special top secret view only for, maybe the IT department. So here's one way of doing it. I can go to basically create a custom page. So I'm going to go add a page, and I'm going to say IT view of issues. Create. You can call it whatever you want. So on this page, I'm simply going to insert the issues list. Okay, and I think so. This computer issues one is a different one than the one I was showing this demo. Let me go make sure I do the right one. Okay, issues. Okay, so here's my issues list that I was just working in. So I basically just put it on a page, on its own special page. And where the heck is that page? So now that I've created it and I'm on this page, if I want to know kind of where it exists and how do I get back to it, I can go to the View All Pages button here, right in the ribbon, and then it says, oh, okay, I'm in this library called Site Pages, and here's the IT View of All Issues page that I just created, okay? So you can create multiple ones of these if you want to, like I did one that I was using for my screenshots in my blog post. Okay, so now that this page exists, how would I get to this page if I, create it and then don't know how to get back to it? It's just, if I'm on a publishing site, it's going to be called Pages, the Pages library. But if I'm on like a team site or any other site, it's called Site Pages. So here is my new view for IT. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to put security on this page. So I go to Shared With, and I go to Advanced to be able to get to my security. So this is item level security, not on the items in the issues list, but just on this page that I created with this view that I only want the IT people to see. So I do Stop Inheriting Permissions, and I'll just say I'm going to I'm just going to leave the owners group in there and remove everybody else. And I'm going to put IT department. And that's a SharePoint group that I've created that has the IT department in it. I only need to really give them read access, because remember, this permission is not for the items in the issues list. This is just for the page that is showing a web part with all the items in it. Okay, so I gave the IT department read, and of course I'm the site admin, so I have full control of it. Okay, so now how do I get back up to this page? Again, I can just go back to Site Contents and go to Site Pages and be able to get to it that way. Okay, so here's my page. So now that I've set permissions on it, no one browsing around this site is going to be able to even get to that page unless they are in the IT department. I might want to put a link to that somewhere, like on, in my quick launch or something like that. Here's a just quick way to do it. I can go edit links like here, and I can take just the name of the page I'm on and put it, wherever I want to put it. I don't know. I'll just put it right here and click Save. So now that's a way to just shortcut to this custom page. All right, and now I'm going to make sure that this page is showing everything in the list. So I'll go ahead and create a couple of items real quick before I do that, just so you'll be able to tell. So this is a, I'll just say broken mouse. And then hardware. And then I'll do another one that says can't get to SharePoint. Help, how descriptive people are in their help desk requests. I know there are a lot of you out there like me. That's where you started out, doing a help desk. So probably familiar. Okay, so notice that this is not showing everything yet. So since I put this web part on a page, I still need to make it so that it shows everything for the IT department. So that's where I have to go edit the view that I'm showing in this web part. So again, I'm going to leave the views alone that I have in the list itself. I'm just editing this view of what is in this web part right here, and I'm not adding more views to the list to show everything in there. Okay, so I've got Issue, title, status, priority, due date, maybe who created it, description, stuff like that. I think that category is a good one. Okay, and then no filter. Okay, so it's not going to have a filter. So then, therefore, people will be able to see everything in the list when they go to this custom page. Okay, so just that alone, is that pretty cool of being able to create a special view on a page and having only certain people be able to go to it? It's not going to show in the list of views on that list, but it's still, it's security on a view. It's only showing certain things to certain people. You guys give me some feedback in the little Q&A, and I know there's a little delay, so I'll let y'all do that. Okay, so another thing is, so just with it like this, just as it is, now the IT people can go to this page, this custom IT view of issues page, and when they click on an item in this list, it will give them the ribbon, and they can go to the quick edit view, and they can say, okay, this one needs to, and I can just edit all the fields in here. This one needs to have a due date of this. Oh, I'll probably need to add the assigned to one in there as well. Need to add the assigned to column, and then stop editing. Okay, so now they were able to go edit fields that are not showing in this default form. So still when I open the form up, it's just showing that basic stuff that people use when they filled it out. So how would I go add a column to this special view here? I go edit the page, and I'm editing my Webpart. And in the blog post I wrote about this, I have references, links you can click on that actually take you to Microsoft official help on just how to edit a view and how to edit a list view in a Webpart, stuff like that. So I'm going to go to the Assign To box. Awesome, Linda, I'm so excited. So Linda in the Q&A, she said, this solves a requirement I just got today. I'm so happy. Okay. So again, they can just, you're not going to see the ribbon unless you click on an item in here, but you can go do quick edit that way and just go assign this to people. So I'll just type my name. So a couple of those have people assigned to them, maybe all of them don't. All right, so what if you want to have that quick edit view be the immediate thing that people see in here? You can do that. Let's see, Josh says, we have always just told users SharePoint doesn't do column review security. We may provide this as an option in the future. So yeah, so that's a great thing to tell end users. So this kind of tip and trick is really more geared to you guys, the people who are managing the sites potentially, and it's not necessarily something that just regular Joe Blow end user is going to be able to comprehend, because they might not necessarily understand security or pages and that kind of thing. Joe D says, very cool to not know you could set up the me in the filter for other users. I thought it was just for my personal view. Thank you. Awesome. So no me is just whoever happens to be looking at the list at that time. It's going to show them their stuff, no matter what kind of view it is. And then Zappis says, is it possible to hide the gear on the upper right by removing rights from permission level? Zarpis, and Ryan can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but this is automatically security trimmed, so I don't think the whole gear is ever going to get hidden, but depending on what you're you're able to do on the site, you're only going to see certain things that apply to you. Like most people are just going to see site contents, but I'd have to test that to just see, you know, exactly what people would see. Like they don't have the ability to edit the page and stuff like that. But I believe that it doesn't ever hide the whole gear, but it hides certain things that don't pertain to you.
Yeah. If you really were adamant about hiding the entire gear, you could probably hide it with CSS or wrap it in like a security trim control on a custom master page, but that's getting
nobody would be able to see it.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting a little more complex, but it probably could be done. We hide the ribbon sometimes for anonymous client anonymous access sites, kind of using the same method where you don't want to see the ribbon, but you want to see everything else. You could probably just narrow the scope down to just that, just that gear. But yeah, it's getting a little more complex. But yeah, it could probably be done if you really needed to.
Nice. Okay, and then someone made a comment in the chat window. Awesome, simple, and easy. Okay, so that was the simple, easy. You could even make this into more of like a full dashboard. You can go edit this page, and you can go maybe change it into just sort of like an IT department dashboard where you just say, I want to have maybe 2 columns, and then this other column you could stick the same exact, the same exact list in here, issues, and just have it filtered to only show the high priority ones, and just have it really, really small and simple, and remove a bunch of the columns, and that way it would be high priority issues would be over here. You could put groupings in your views to say, group it by assigned to, or group it by the priority, group it by the category. You can do all kinds of things and add multiple web parts on this IT quote, dashboard page, whatever you want to call it. And we did a whole other power hour on Webpart settings as well that you guys could delve into. I'm going to go delete that back off of here. All right. So, yeah, Zarpus says, as far as I know, you have to write code. Yeah. But inherently, things are going to be security trimmed in SharePoint in general, and people aren't going to be able to do stuff that they don't have access to do. Okay, so back to the concept of the issues list itself and people being able to, we created this one view, and we don't want people to be able to go create personal view, just regular people going to this list to be able to create a personal view. So what you can do is create a, and I put a reference to some, more detailed help on my blog about this, but you can go, let me go back up to the very top level of my site collection, go to permissions and permission levels. So I took the contribute permission level. Don't ever mess with the out of the box ones because that could really screw stuff up. So just take an existing one and copy it. So I copied the contribute permission level, and then I called it contribute but no views or alerts. So all I did was go in here and just uncheck the ability for them to create alerts, because if they can create alerts on this list, then they could potentially see a bunch of data that doesn't pertain to them, because it arrives in the alert email. And then I unchecked all 3 of these boxes so that they can't do personal views and stuff like that. So that is my custom permission level. So I don't have to apply that permission level like on the whole site or anything like that. I can just go to my IT site and give people that permission level on that one list. So I go to my issues list, and then I can go to list settings and permissions, or I can go to shared with and go to advanced, and then stop inheriting permissions. And then maybe I want to, I'll just uncheck, get rid of those, remove everything except kind of the ones I need. And then for members, I can just give them edit. I cannot stand that one because everybody can add and delete entire lists and manage entire lists when they have that one, by the way. That's a new one that's in 2013 in Office 365 that you should be careful of. And I'm going to give them contribute but no views or alerts. So then I can give maybe the IT department probably don't want to give them this edit one either, because then they could mess with the whole list and the list settings and stuff. I can just give them contribute, and that way they can create personal views on that list if they want to. All right, here's another. Now, the method I just showed you was to create a whole other separate SharePoint page and put a view on there and just not add a view to the list. Here's another just interesting little way to accomplish that. I can go create a view, and I'm just going to call it all. Or I could even create it as a datasheet view like that, and then they would automatically be in that little quick edit. I'm just going to call it all issues. And then it's a public view. I can make it, have everything in it and have all the columns that I need, etc. But after I create it, watch this. End users can really potentially mess up pages though when they have the ability to edit these. But edit page, so I'm on my view. I'm on this view that I just created of everything in the list, and watch this. I can go to my Webpart settings, and I can go to advanced and say I want to have a target audience. I'm just going to say I only want the IT department to be able to see this web part. So technically my list of stuff is a web part on the view. So now, let's see what happens. Let's see if that worked. I think that this might be something that I used to do maybe in previous versions of SharePoint, and it doesn't work as well. And okay, I'm not in the IT department, so I'm not seeing it. That's why I'm not seeing it. All right, so now, since I'm not in the IT department, I can still see the name of that list, but when I go to it, it's like, what the heck is that? There's nothing there. So let's see. Let's go add me to the IT department and see what happens. Let's see, IT department. And then put me in there. So now whoever's in the IT department is going to be able to go to the issues list, click all issues, and see everything. So that's actually even a little easier than creating the custom page. With the custom page, it's easier to do like a dashboard and have a bunch of multiple web parts on a page. And the negative to this one is that other people could click all issues and just see nothing on the page, and then they might be confused about that. So now that I'm on all issues, one thing I could do if I wanted to was I could stick a little content editor web part on here that just kind of lets people know that they can't see this if they're not in the IT department. So this view is for the department only. And then get rid of my little Chrome, the little box around the thing that says content editor there. Okay, so now I'll stop editing my page. And so now it will say this at the top, and if someone other than the IT department goes to this view, it will at least give them this text, even if they can't see that web part that I targeted to a specific audience. All right, pretty helpful. Any guys in the chat window or anybody on the team have any like which one's your favorite, or do you have anything like that else to consider with those two methods?
One of the one way that, since you mentioned audiences, you can use the audiences to actually include multiple web parts with multiple views on the same page with different audiences. That way you have the same page link for people to go to, and what groups they're in, they'll get different views.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great idea, Kevin. So potentially I could have just this homepage be like the help desk homepage or something like that even, and when they go to the homepage, they immediately see like my issues and high priority issues and issues in a certain, by category and stuff like that, and then each individual web part is only showing to a certain audience of people, and that way, like you said, people don't have different places that they have to go and understand all the different links and things.
The only downside to that is that whoever is managing the page, when they go into edit page mode, they may see dozens and dozens of the same version of the web part. So documentation at that point is essential if you're going to ever pass that responsibility on to somebody.
Right, and does the page take a performance hit potentially because all that data is still exists on the page whether or not they can see it?
It can.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
There's also an alternative method that I've used in the past for example, if you had say the priority column that you didn't want somebody to see, or the status, one of those columns you didn't want somebody to see, or more likely something that you didn't want everyone to see, but you only wanted 2 or 3 or a department worth of people to see. At that point, what I've done is created the default view that does not include that column or columns, and then added an additional column to the list, say for our restricted group or restricted view members, and then make that a people column, add that the people I want to be able to see all the extras into that column for each of the items, make that the default maybe, then create a view that say let's say this is issues restricted or something, and then make sure to add back in all those columns that I want to see, I want those extra people, say executives or IT team, to be able to see into that view, but add a filter. You know, you bypass filters on yours, but add a filter on that view that says restricted users is equal to, and then use the bracketed me, and that way anybody that actually goes to that view, even if it is a choice, if they're not in that restricted users column, they just get a blank results. But if they are, then they'll see that view with the extra columns.
Nice. Good idea. Okay, I like that.
I actually do have a blog post. It's an old blog post, but it's still valid. I'll put the link into the showcase.
Oops, let me see. I have one too. I have an additional one too. So great. Okay, so you're going to put that in a little showcase app in there so everybody can see it. And then I think you just have to paste the link in there, and then you have to, once it shows, you have to click a little checkbox to say show this item. And then everybody, you guys, if you're on the little Q&A panel, the Showcase app is another little panel that lets you show in there in the Google Hangout. All right, so Eduardo brought up a great point. He's talking about Infopath. So everything I've done so far, I have not been doing anything with the form so far. I've just been doing the views and showing the columns and showing things for certain people. So he posted a link to something about, you know, being able to have something in an Infopath form that looks at what group you're in. That's way out of the scope of what I was going to cover in this session. But before I start delving into, you know, ways to make this form look a little bit different, I do want to cover real quick that it is super easy to do this using Infopath, but I wasn't necessarily planning on having this be an Infopath session. So if I have, I have an issues list here, and I have, I just want to quickly customize my form with Infopath, which is, Microsoft has said is they're phasing it out. It's going away in the year 2023. I can customize my form, and I can really easily do things with hiding and showing columns according to certain, you know, the status of the form and certain fields and things like that. And I'm just going to show you just a real quick concept and how you would go about doing that. But what I'm going to do, the main focus of this demo is not really Infopath. It's how other ways to be able to accomplish it, just because it's so easy with Infopath. Like in Infopath, I have this concept of rules. So with any field or sort of area of data or basically anything in my form, I can create a rule to hide or show it according to a certain condition. So for example, I can say maybe I want the, which one, due date. I'll just say maybe I want to put due date in here, but I only want to let certain people, let them see that, you know, after certain status, the status is not equal to a certain thing or whatever the status is. So the due date is going to be, I can create a formatting rule on each of these little boxes if I want to, and I have something called a section that I can insert on here, and I can create a rule on a whole section of little fields in there. But basically the concept of a formatting rule is according to whatever condition I set up, hide this control or show it in a certain color. So like if I take an entire, put a section in here, and I put due date in the section, I'll put due date, select this text, due date, just kind of throw this in here, it's kind of ugly, like that. That's like a date and time, that's why it's got them all next to each other like that. And then maybe assign to, and then assign to. And then this whole section, I can just say formatting rule, according to what condition hide this control. So I can say issue status is equal to active, hide this control, and then that way, you know, when it's a brand new one that somebody is submitting, then they're not going to see those items. So basically, whatever condition you want, you can easily hide individual controls in here or an entire section of things in here. So again, I wasn't going to go into depth in Infopath just because to me that is so super easy that it's not. I mean, it's not even. You don't have to have like tricks to do it like you do with this kind of some of this other stuff that I'm going to try and show you. So I'm not going to publish that form, but I just wanted you to see that concept. But again, a lot of things I've been doing lately, I've been trying to do it in a way that doesn't involve Infopath because so many people are trying to gradually move away from it and be able to do some of the similar concepts. All right, so we have the next thing we're going to talk about is ways that we can show other stuff in the form, maybe according to it being a certain status or a certain person that's looking at it. So again, there are a lot of different directions I could go at this point, but I'm going to go the direction of a different form according to a different content type. And I actually wrote a whole blog post. I wrote this years ago. It's called Using Content Types as Statuses. It might even be, let's see if it's in my little top, yeah. Using Content Types as Statuses. And I'll put that in the little showcase thingy. And that is just basically how you can have multiple content types and have each content type have certain fields that it shows just according to whatever content type it is. I mean, according to whether you say required, optional, or hidden. So I just added that to the little showcase thing. Okay. Now I can use the concept of content types in here. So right now the content type is issue, and that's the only one that it has in here. So I'm going to go to my site level here, and I'm going to create another content type that's going to have, it's going to be an issue content type, but it's going to have more fields for them to be able to fill out. So I'm going to my site content types, and I'm going to create a new one. And the parent content type, so I'm going to say like IT issue for issue IT view, like that, IT form. So in this example, I've only got two sort of statuses or two sort of different ways the form needs to look. It's going to be the way it looks for the end users filling it out and then the way it looks for IT. But again, with any other sort of process, you could have multiple different stages and multiple different sets of fields that you want to see in different situations. So my parent here is going to be from a list content type, and that's the issue one. That's where the issue one is that we were just using. So I'm using that as the parent, and then within my new content type called issue IT form, this is where I can go in here and determine what I want the IT people to see. So I pretty much just want them to be able to do everything in here. They've got, there's the assigned to, status, priority, description, kind of all those different things, and I want them to be able to have. Now, I can do something additional, like when the IT person is working this form, maybe the assigned to is required. So the first time that the IT people person gets a hold of it and they start filling it out, they immediately need to fill out the assigned to. So I can have fields like that are required per content type, but that are not required for just like a new user filling it out. So again, this is required just going to be for an issue IT form and not for just the default new issue that Sally in accounting is filling out. All right, so how do I created this content type at the site level, so now I just want to take this and put it in my issues list and let it exist in my issues list. So I go to list settings and add from existing content type. And I go kind of a lot faster in these demos than I normally do just in like when I'm teaching my class, because I know you guys can just go pause this and rewind it when you're watching it later. So I know I'm clicking through this stuff kind of fast. So I go add another content type. So now I've got two content types in my issues list, and this first one is just the default one that exists for, that we already customized, and the other one is for the IT people. So it shows me which one. They're all used in both content types. It's just that they're hidden in one of these. So in issue, some of them are hidden, and in Issue IT Form, they're not hidden. So now what does that end up looking like? So now when I go look at an item in here and I click Edit Item, if I change this to Issue IT Form, look at that, then I have all that stuff available to me. But I don't want the end users to be able to go change that. So right now the edit form is actually giving them this field to fill in, which I don't want that to happen. So I want to somehow make it so that they can only, when they open it, they can only see their thing, their stuff, their fields. So when I'm in my little content type settings, I can change this so this is not visible. I don't want this to be somewhere that they can use in the drop-down box. If this is visible, then again they'd be able to change it. Before I change this, let me real quick show you another place that it's visible when you're creating a new item. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing you might want to have so that IT people, if they get a phone call, they could go in here and quickly fill one out and be able to have everything. But I don't really want this to be in here by default. So let's go again back to the list. Oops, back to the list settings, and change the new button in order, and then just uncheck that. So now when I go to an item in here and I'm editing it, see, I don't have that content type drop-down box anymore. I'm going to have to do something else to get around that to be able to have that content type as something that they can edit. Now let's go see if I can go to my little, I could probably maybe go to a view and have that as, you know, like I did with a quick edit, but probably what I would want to do would be to create a workflow that as soon as a item is created in the issues list, it just automatically sets that, changes the content type. So that's pretty simple. I can just go to my issues, create a new workflow on my issues list. I could have sworn I just clicked it. There we go. Oh, right. Not sure where it's going. It's kind of slow. New. Come on, SharePoint. I don't have time for this. Okay. So new issue. So now when a new issue is created, this is the one thing at least that I want it to do. Also remember that I turned off alerts. So remember that I said I created that custom permission level where they can't create alerts, but people might want to be notified when they submit an issue. So that's probably going to be an additional thing that you would want to do in your workflow, is make it so that it at least sends them an email letting them know that they just created an issue, or letting them know that it was closed and stuff like that. So this one I only want to run when a new item gets created, and I'm going to say set field value. It's called content type ID, and I'm going to change it to issue IT form, and I'm going to say you know, go to end of workflow. So what I'm doing here though is I'm changing the whole content type to be for issue IT form, but still, if I do that, keep in mind that if someone that submitted the ticket goes and has the ability to open that form later, then they're going to see all the IT stuff. So another thing that you can do if I went this route, again, there are lots of routes I could go, is I would want them not to be able to click their issue and open it later. So if on this little default My Issues thing, here's how I can do that. I can make it so they don't have a link to the item. They're just going to see the title of it, just title, like that, with no link. And that way I can give them information about their issue and give them, you know, some stuff that's in the columns that they filled out. But if I'm switching something to a different content type and I don't want them to be able to open the form and see that, then I could still let them see the columns and not be able to click on title and open the item up. Does that make sense? That's just, again, that's just one option. So that's one thing you can have your workflow do, is just as soon as they create a new thing, it gets switched, the content type gets switched. Another thing I can do, if I don't want to go, if I don't want to switch the whole content type, I just want to have like a special way that the IT people can go and, you know, have a special button that they click, is I can go a little bit more fancy in SharePoint Designer with a custom form. So Keith says, could we just create a permission for add so they can't edit the item? Yes, that does totally make sense, Keith. Yep. So yes, Keith, You could create in that custom permission level, you can just say they can only add items and they can't edit items later. And that would cover that to make it so that they can only add stuff. But after they created a ticket or whatever it is, they would not be able to go like change something in their ticket. So then you would be relying on only the IT department potentially could edit it later. But that's a great idea. That's another way that you could slice and dice it. All right. So another thing that we can do. So I just showed one way that we can just have two different content types and just have it switch content types as soon as a new item's created, and then the end users just can't go open the form later, therefore they wouldn't see the pretty issue IT form that has all the fields. Okay, so that's a way to do it, but SharePoint also gives you the ability to create a custom form based on a specific content type. So I can go click my little forms thing in here, and I say I want to have a new edit item form based on this content type. So I'll say edit form IT. That's what I'm going to call it. So now I'm doing an edit item form, and it's only going to use the issue IT form, and I can even have a link to that in the ribbon. So IT edit is what it can say. All right, so what happens when I do that? That's a cool little setting. I don't see people using those much, but watch this. So now when I go to my issues list and I'm on an item, it should have IT edit. Let's see, maybe it's just on the individual form here. Edit item. Ooh, it didn't put it in there yet. Interesting. Okay. Did I go to the right list? And so I was going to show you kind of the next step to that anyway. But so it has edit form IT, and I can go see if that exists. So I can try going to that in the browser. So I can go to my issues list / edit form X. Okay, so that is very ugly. Whoa. All right, so let's go in here and see what it has in it. So I'm going to, oh my gosh, I'm opening it up in SharePoint Designer. Holy cow. I don't do this much in SharePoint 2013 because you don't get the design view anymore, but I can still do some stuff in here. So I'm going to just kind of put my cursor somewhere in here and watch this. I still have some options in here. I have my options tab, I have design, Webpart, I have some basic things I can do, but it's not pretty in trying to get around in here. So all it shows me as having is the save button in here. But look, see, it's got all the fields in here. That's very odd. Let me hit F12. No, see, when I go to the form, it's just nada. All right, that was an awesome demo. I'm sure that's a bug. Maybe they really didn't want you to be able to create custom forms in there, and it's just like still exists with a new button, but it's not really ever actually going to work. Has anybody in here or in this room, any of y'all ever successfully done one of these in 2013 Office 365? I could have sworn I did one just the other day, and it actually did have all the fields in it. That's really weird. No? Maybe it has to do with all the weird stuff that I was going in here and editing and stuff like that when I was. Yeah, see, all the fields are there. It's just not showing. I always got to have one little thing that I don't completely, test before I do my demo that doesn't work, right? It's not complete without something like that.
One other thing I've seen people do to do some things like this, and it's not really scalable, but it works on a very specific basis, is to put the information in two different lists, and then use related lists.
Ooh, good idea.
And web parts. So, for example, if you had a personal phone number that you wanted, a lot of data to show up about a person, but you only wanted people from HR to be able to see the personal phone number, you put the personal phone number in a separate list, and then you just make it a related list to the other data, and then you put them in two different web parts. And it comes up blank in the second web part, so it's not exactly elegant. It's sort of the same problem that you had before with the page being blank, but And like I said, it's not scalable for 20 different items. You don't want to have 20 different lists. But if it's just one or two things out of a bunch of different items, you just relate the lists.
If I have one called like IT comments that I want to be related to that other list, I would go create a column that says, I don't know if I'm going to be able to whip this up in 5 minutes, but I kind of want to go that direction. IT issue. And then go to issues is the one that I've been working with, and sure, the title of the issue. And I can bring across additional fields if I want to, like when was created and stuff like that. And I want to cascade delete, so if I delete the original issue, it will delete the comments. All right, so now I've got a little easy board that's like, somebody, can you mute yourself?
I think it's Kevin, actually.
Kevin, say what it's associated with. So now, okay, so it exists in a different list. So here's one thing that you could do for that is you could actually go in here and customize this form, like the edit form, or no, I'll just do the display form. Okay, so now this is just a regular display form that the end user fills out, but then I can go add the web part of the IT comments to it, and if I only give IT access to that IT comments list, and there's no way in heck that the end users are going to see that data. So I'm going to say get the filter value from issues and send the ID to the issue. Kevin, can you mute yourself? Kevin? I'm going to go through here and start muting people. Okay, well now what happens? All right, so now I'm on issues. I go open up an issue. I'm looking at it. So which one's the one? The broken mouse is the one that I put a comment on. Ooh, look at that. So this web part's kind of messy. I would probably want to get rid of some of these little links and stuff like that. But great idea, Stephen. Just another way to slice and dice it is that it's a whole separate list, but I can do connected web parts and stuff to be able to see the associated items. So when an IT person is filling in, it could be multiple fields. If they're filling in their fields, they could just be filling it in a different list and have it associated with that. You're just picking the name of the issue it's associated with. Around that, though, we would probably want to have, like, right now this new item button is just going to start with a blank new form, and they still have to pick which issue. We probably want to do something custom, like have the new item automatically default them to a new item related to that issue, which is a whole other power hour, right? So, because that involves like passing a parameter to a web part and stuff like that. So you guys, hopefully, in the chat window, you might need to watch this whole thing in slow motion next time you watch the recording. But hopefully we've given you at least some ideas of a whole bunch of different ways and methods that you can go about creating different views that different people can see different things, and just kind of some tools you have at your disposal to be able to do that you might not have known about. So the next thing I think about is inline editing. So there's this concept in SharePoint list called inline editing that lets you be able to have certain fields that people can edit and certain fields they can't, and that's again, we don't have time to do that in 1 minute, but you'd have to use SharePoint Designer to do it anyway. All right, anybody else, I guess, in the chat window have any final questions? I guess I'm going to have to wrap it up. All right, real quick announcement. We have SP TechCon, the SharePoint Technology Conference, is next week, and a bunch of us are going to be at that. I hope to meet some of you there. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Okay. Hopefully, I be able to meet some of you out in the community at that. And that's going to be basically Sunday through Wednesday, I believe. And, ooh, Power Hour is it's like an hour before my flight leaves to come back home. So, I don't know, we might have to either cancel Power Hour. It would be nice if we could just do Power Hour at SP TechCon together, but it wouldn't be able to be at the same normal time that we have it. So, We'll figure something out. Maybe we should want to do one live. Some of you, me and Joelle and Tonya, maybe we'll do one live and just have it at a different time. We'll discuss it. But that's where we'll be next week, and exciting stuff. And I guess we will. I'm not sure what next week's Power Hour is going to be about, but feel free to let us know, like in the comments, in the YouTube videos, and in the Q&A in here if you guys have any ideas. So thanks, everybody. Signing out. Have a good week.